Since cave-ins are the most common and the deadliest hazard in excavation work, let's look at them a little more closely. When dirt is removed, the surrounding soil becomes unstable and gravity forces it to collapse. When soil or rock falls or slides into the excavation, the cave-in could entrap, bury, or otherwise injure and immobilize people working in the excavation. Most cave-ins occur in trenches 5 to 15 feet deep and occur suddenly with little or no warning. On average, about 1,000 trench collapses occur each year in the United States, and over 95% of injuries occur in trenches without any protective systems. Did you know that only 2 to 3 feet of soil can put enough pressure on your lungs to prevent you from breathing? In as little as 4 to 6 minutes without oxygen, you can sustain considerable brain damage. And within 10 minutes, well, it might just be too late. In fact, the chances of a trapped worker being killed can be as high as 50%. Trench work is serious work and can have serious consequences if it's not done correctly. Soil conditions can change and shift, so they must be constantly evaluated. There are certain factors that could change the surroundings of the site, making a cave-in more likely. For instance, it rained here last night, and water could potentially affect the state of the soil. So I constantly check the condition of the soil and of the surrounding site and evaluate any condition that may increase the likelihood of a collapse. If you're the designated competent person on site, that'll be your job too. But it's also important for every worker on site to know and recognize some of the most frequent problems and to communicate them immediately. Water is one factor that can increase the risk of a collapse. Other factors include temperature change, vibrations from heavy equipment. Even the surrounding load, like a spoil pile, can affect the conditions of the excavation. Also, a lot of the soil that we work in has been previously disturbed. Previously disturbed soil is different from soil that's never been excavated. It can contain backfill or other materials that can rapidly break away from native soils. Sometimes there are visible warning signs around the excavation that can be spotted before a cave-in occurs. And if you're aware of these warning signs, your chances of getting out before a collapse increase significantly. Some of these visible signs may include ground settlement or narrow cracks in sidewalls, slopes, or the surface next to the excavation. Flakes, pebbles, or clumps of soil may separate and fall into the excavation, or there may be changes or bulges in the wall slope. If you notice any of these signs, get out of the excavation immediately and get your coworkers out too. A life is too high a price to pay to overlook any one factor or warning sign. Cave-ins are possible, they can happen if you're not careful, but they can be prevented. And let's face it, preventative measures take a lot less time and effort than an emergency retrieval. There are different types of cave-ins that happen in various types of conditions. For instance, a spoil pile slide is probably the most common type of cave-in. It occurs when dirt is piled too close to the edge of a trench. A shear wall collapse occurs most frequently in clay or layered soils. Part or all of one side of the wall begins to crumble into the trench, along with the weight of the spoil pile. The height of the falling soil is added to the weight, generating a great deal of force. An average collapse of 2 to 3 yards of soil can weigh 4,000 to 6,000 pounds, or nearly the weight of a pickup truck. A lip slide may be an indicator of a potentially more hazardous collapse to come. A belly slough often occurs in areas near underground utilities or where running water is present. This type of slide occurs when softer soil weakens under the more stable soil. The collapse can be rapid and usually buries or traps the victim quickly. The resulting overhang makes rescue more dangerous and difficult as well. Telltale fracture lines often appear near the bottom wall of the trench before a belly slough occurs. Boiling and heaving and squeezing are two other types of soil conditions that need to be taken into consideration when working in a trench or excavation. Boiling is marked by an upward water flow into the bottom of the cut, creating a quick condition, like quicksand. Heaving and squeezing is a downward pressure created by the weight of surrounding soil or adjacent equipment that causes a bulge in the bottom of the cut. Both boiling and heaving and squeezing may contribute to or indicate a potential collapse, and both conditions can occur even when support systems have been properly installed.